Isioatana mrigadayavana.
The Buddha's journey through this kingdom revealed that some cities were almost uninhabited, and some had only elderly people left. But he didn't pay much attention because his final destination was Isioatana mrigadayavana forest, or the forest that was home to hermits. Located further north of this kingdom, he explained. Where is Isioatana forest? Is there any noticeable symbol? I asked eagerly, because the largest kingdom at that time was the Devarapati kingdom. This kingdom was like the center and considered the capital of this entire region. So, when referring to other areas, they used the Devarapati kingdom as the center, and called other cities or kingdoms according to the direction from this kingdom. So, the location of a forest was north or Udon of the Devarapati kingdom. Today, this place is located in Koswan Kwang district, about 70 kilometers before Udon Thani province. Does that mean the name of Udon Thani province comes from the direction of this large kingdom? I asked. Yes. It's like how your Bangkok is the center now. So you call Chiang Mai the northern city. Udon means north, he replied. Oh, I understand. Can you specify the location of Isioatana mrigadayavana forest clearly? I said. Yes. At that time, this city had a special characteristic. It was like a community but didn't have the status of a city or a ruler. It was similar to Master Bavari's island city, which was like a semi-community, semi-forest, like a sanctuary. Anyone who traveled into this city would feel strange because it was full of trees, plants, herbs, and large and small wild animals, especially deer. So, it had another name, Saranganatha or Sarnath, which means the land where people live with deer. Importantly, this was a gathering place for famous hermits in various sciences, especially in accessing truth or liberation. And this is the reason why the Buddha headed here, to specify the location of this place. Today it is called Dong Muang, an ancient site. Dong Muang, sub-district, Koswan Kwang district, Kankan province, he replied. And what is noticeable there? I asked. If you go there, you will see the ruins of an ancient city, composed of a moat that used natural waterways as its boundary, with a diameter of about 1.5 kilometers on each side. In the center, there is a small island surrounded by another moat. Inside the city, there is a community living with nature. That is, houses with wild animals, especially deer. Inside the inner island, there are the ruins of an old chedi that Asoka and the Buddha traveled to mark as the place where he gave his first sermon to the 5 Brahmins, until they attained enlightenment and the first Sangha group in Buddhism was born, he explained. Oh, wow. Does anyone know that this place is one of the Buddhist holy sites? I asked. No one knows. Even the monks stationed at that monastery don't know. Today, there is only a small local museum that preserves ancient artifacts, excavated from the area. But there is not a single line about this history, he replied. When Prince Siddhartha set out to learn the truth from the hermits, he stayed here for 6 years, learning all the subjects, learning until the teachers had nothing more to teach. But he was still not satisfied. There were still many questions that the teachers could not answer, but only told him to practice and he would know. He thought that this was not the answer, because if those teachers knew what the end result was, they would know when they would reach that destination, and what was still lacking, or how much more ability was needed Lord Foch explained. What do you mean? Learning has to be continuous, doesn't it? I interjected. At that time, Prince Siddhartha was just wondering how the learning or practice methods could lead to the destination, how much more he had to do to succeed, what that state of success was like, and most importantly, he wanted to know where he was in his learning process. It's like when you enroll in a subject at university. You want to know when and how what you are learning will lead to a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree. Whether what you are learning matches your needs, what qualities you must have when you graduate with a doctorate, and most importantly, what level you are currently studying and how much more you have to learn. Oh, and the teachers didn't tell him. I asked. There was a curriculum that you had to go through certain practices, but when the Buddha completed them, he still didn't see any change in himself. So he asked questions, but the answer he got was to keep practicing and he would know, he replied. And what did he do next? I asked. He set out to study on his own, rigorously testing all the principles he had learned, especially the self-mortification process, which he was determined to pursue to the end. At that time, the Brahmins who had predicted that Prince Siddhartha would achieve enlightenment followed him, hoping that if he succeeded, they could learn from him. He traveled east until he reached a sub-district on the border of the Kazi and Unga kingdoms. There, a large river called the Naranyara River blocked his way. Prince Siddhartha stayed on the banks of that river for almost 6 months. He practiced self-mortification by fasting and drinking only water to sustain himself, until his body became thin, only skin and bones. But in the end, he still couldn't discover anything. He only had a deteriorating body with no strength. He considered that this was probably the end. This was the point where he had to choose, because if he continued like this, not only would he not be able to discover the truth he desired, but he might also die meaninglessly and in vain. So he decided to stop self-mortification by fasting from then on. When the Brahmins who followed saw that Prince Siddhartha abandoned his intention and started eating food, they lost faith and returned to Isioatana mrigadayavana forest, leaving him alone. He decided to change his meditation location, moving closer to a community so that he could go for alms to take care of his body. He walked along that large river for about 20 kilometers, closer to a community near the river. The point where this community was located was where another river flowed into it, which at that time was called the Champa River. So this place had a special characteristic, a large, pale yellow sand beach. During the dry season, a sandbar would appear in the middle of the river. This community called itself Uruvela, which means the village with beautiful sand.